Hi folks, this is Miss House, and this is a little short video about how to set up your field notebook for environmental science. Just to remind you, you need a notebook that is separate from the notebook that you do homework and lecture notes in. And so this notebook will just go with you when we're out in the field at Dharma. You'll do all of your Dharma work in this notebook. You need to bring it to every class just in case we have a surprise visit to Dharma, or if we are going to do some analysis of the data that you collected in your notebook. So I purchased this notebook. It's about $7. You can get them at art stores or New Seasons grocery stores around Portland. You do not have to buy a fancy notebook. You can also use, this isn't even that fancy, you can also use a spiral notebook that you can pick up at any store. Fred Meyer has them on sale right now for 19 cents. I like this notebook because it's a little bit smaller than a spiral notebook, and so it won't take up quite so much room. It also has a spiral, and so you can fold the notebook flat when you're out in the field. Composition books are difficult to fold flat, so I wouldn't recommend one of those, but if you have one, you can probably make it work. I also like this notebook because it's made out of recycled paper, and you know, I'm a tree hugger, and so I appreciate that. It also has weird drawings all over it. Any notebook will do, however. Because this notebook is not made out of special paper, I have to make sure I keep it dry in the field, and so I need to always make sure that I take a backpack that will keep it waterproof in case it's raining. On page 1 of your notebook, you can either put your table of contents, or you can leave a page for kind of useful information. I kind of like to do this because this is where I might write a password to the website where the Google Forms are. It's just there. It's stuff that I'm going to really need to find quickly, and I don't want to flip through my notebook to find it. And so I like to do this. You do not have to do that. You do want to number your pages. I'm lazy, and so I only number the right-hand page, even though I'm going to use both sides. So this is page 1, this is page 2. I did not number this page. This is page 3, etc., page 4. And then if I have to talk about this page, so maybe if I put something here, this is page 3, so I would call this page 2.5. You might think that's really stupid. You can number all of your pages, that's fine. But you do need to number your pages because you are going to make a table of contents. So on either page 1 or page 2, you want to put your table of contents, page, description. I started writing in pen, and then I kept changing my mind about what I was going to do, so I crossed things out. When you have to cross something out in your field notebook, it's very important that you don't scratch it out if you wrote in pen. And that's just a weird thing that field biologists do. It's to make sure that they don't lose track of what they wrote down the first time. I know it's kind of odd, but you just put a line through the mistake. You don't scratch it out, or if you wrote in pen, you don't erase it. Okay, ignore that. You don't need to worry about that. That's just, I'm explaining my sloppiness. Anyway, page, and what's on that page. So on page 5, we're going to set up our first, leave a few blank pages, so skip to page 5. We're going to set up our first, I lied, it's on page 6, Dharma Field Day. And so once your notebook is set up, every time we go to Dharma, we're going to do some standard things. You will have a handout that looks like this. I'm at home, so I can't print it right now. It says the field notebook. You're going to tape that onto page 5 or 5.5 or 6 of your field notebook so that you kind of have a list of everything that you need to do on there. We're going to pretend that that's this handout, so it's not. I just folded this over and I taped it here. If this were this handout, then I can read this without having to take it out. So anytime you're putting a handout into your notebook, you want to fold it and just tape one edge of it so that you can open it up later to read it. And all of your field-related notebooks go in here. Any like chapter guides or homework that is not related to Dharma would go in your other spiral or in your binder. So back to the day at the field. So I'm going to rotate this a little bit so we can get all this in. Every time when you go to the field, you're going to put specific things in your notebook. You need a title at the top. I just put Dharma and the date and time there. And then location, and you're going to want to note exactly where you were. So for this, I'm pretending that we went to the oak savanna and that we were in the bench area. You might say north end of ravine, you might say lower bioswale, orchard. So once you get to know Dharma, put a specific place. For your location, never just put Dharma. That is too vague. We also want to note the weather. Every time we go out, we want to make some weather notes. It will help us interpret our data later on. So I'm pretending that it's sunny. I looked at my phone and it was 82 degrees Fahrenheit. There were clear, no clouds. The wind, 0 to 4 miles per hour. And I'll show you how to estimate that. You'll have a little chart that you'll tape in your notebook. And there's 0 precipitation. I abbreviated precip because there's no doubt in my mind that that means precipitation. You want to leave space in your notebook every time you go to make some observations, both while you're on your way over there and when you first get to the site. Things will change over time, and so it's great to note how things are different or something unusual that you saw that you might want to know later, or even something that might help another team. So for my observations, I'm pretending that I saw lots of brush and that some was really tall. This is how tall I am. I'm short. But some of that was even taller than me. So I want to note that because the last time I went to Dharma, that brush was not that tall. I also want to note that I saw some animals. So I saw a rabbit. I'm not sure what kind, so I put cottontail ? 3 to 4 species of birds in the general area, and then pretending that we saw 2 black-capped chickadees in the savanna, and I abbreviated savanna. I put a question mark by chickadees because I'm not quite sure that's what they were. I'm noting that we saw 3 different insects on a flowering shrub. And then you want to note what photos you took. This is very important because unless you have a date time stamp on all your photos, or you might just forget that you took a photo that day or what it was of, you'll look in your notebook and say, oh yeah, I did take a photo that day, and I took a photo of those insects on the flowers, and I want to try to identify those. Or you might take a video. So we weren't sure what kind of bird this was, so maybe you took a video of the bird, and then you can identify it later, and I'll show you how to do that. Making some notes about the soil because I'm the soils team, and so I'm going to do some soil testing, and so I'm making some general notes about the soil. Then I have a specific task every time I go to Dharma. On this particular day, I was on the soils team, and so we did some soil testing. And so I'm going to talk to you about how to note your data very specifically later. But for today, you just want to have a general idea that when you set up your notebook, you have location, weather, date and time, some observations, and then the task that you had to complete at Dharma that day. All right, that's it, folks. Let me know if you have any questions about your field notebook.